Imagine you are an extraterrestrial anthropologist observing Earth for the very first time. You point your sensors at our blue planet and witness a bizarre synchronized phenomenon. Millions of humans screaming, weeping in public, embracing total strangers. Why? Because 22 bipedal primates are desperately chasing an inflated sphere of compressed air across a rigorously measured rectangle of grass. It sounds utterly ridiculous, yet it is entirely profound. Welcome to the beautiful game. Football is not just a sport. It is an archaeological dig into the human psyche. Today we are going to unpack how a simple act of kicking a ball evolved from a primal instinct into the highly structured secular global religion we know today. If we look at the archaeological record, we see different civilizations completely separated by geography and time, independently inventing the exact same primal obsession. But they didn't just invent a game, they invented complex rituals wrapped in highly specific rules. Take ancient China, around 200 BCE during the Han Dynasty. Here we find Cuju, one of the earliest documented kicking ball games in human history, and a distant ancestor in football's long family tree. This was a highly disciplined affair. The rules explicitly forbade the use of hands. Players had to keep a leather ball stuffed with feathers airborne, using intricate footwork to pass it through a small opening in a silk net suspended on bamboo canes. Cuju was not a casual pastime, it was a military exercise. Its meaning lay in forging discipline, supreme agility, and peak physical fitness for imperial soldiers. Later, around 200 CE, ancient Rome introduced Harpastum. The Romans, unsurprisingly, stripped away the silk nets. Harpastum used a small, hard ball on a dirt field. The exact rules are partly lost to history, but what survives suggests a fast, physical, violently contested game built around possession, pressure, and bodies hitting the ground. It was a brutally violent, tackle-heavy scrum. Its true purpose was to simulate the chaos of war, building unbreakable camaraderie and toughness in Roman legionaries. Different continents, different rules, same obsession. But why the feet? We chose our feet because standing upright freed our hands to build civilizations. From a biomechanical standpoint, kicking a moving target while balancing on one locked leg requires the most complex neural pathway coordination in the human body. Football is the ultimate evolutionary flex of our bipedal architecture. Raw instinct, however, is messy. To conquer the modern world, this instinct needed to be tamed. For centuries in Europe, mob football was essentially a town-wide riot masquerading as a pastime. Villages would clash in the streets, hundreds of people violently battering each other to move a pig's bladder from one end of the town to the other. There were no referees. It was brutal. It was chaotic. In medieval England, royal authorities repeatedly tried to suppress these violent ball games. In 1363, Edward III even ordered football and other idle games to be banned, fearing they distracted men from archery practice, a skill vital for war. But you cannot legislate away human nature. You can only channel it. By the 19th century, during the booming Industrial Revolution in England, humanity reached a psychological tipping point. We decided to take our violent, tribal instincts and lock them inside a cage of gentlemanly agreements. On a chilly evening in 1863, at the Freemasons' Tavern in London, representatives from various clubs drafted a unified set of rules. They outlawed hacking shins, they standardized pitch dimensions, they limited the use of hands, they standardized the field, the goals, and the basic language of the game. This was a profound evolutionary compromise. By writing down the laws of the game, we transformed primitive violence into a civilized battle. But rules alone do not create a culture. You need regular congregations. Before football could become a global phenomenon, it had to become a local obsession. Then football found its weekly rhythm. Factory whistles blew, men left the soot-covered streets, and every Saturday they walked toward the same sacred patch of grass. In 1888, the English Football League was founded, the direct ancestor to today's multi-billion-dollar English Premier League. This was a crucial psychological shift. Football moved from elite schoolyards to grim, soot-covered factory towns. Suddenly, clubs like Aston Villa or Manchester United weren't just sports teams, they were the geographical and cultural identities of the working class. The weekly Saturday match became a rigid social ritual. You supported the club of your neighborhood, your factory, your father. As global trade routes expanded, this localized tribalism spread like a virus, mutating into fierce regional rivalries. Before the whole world could play together, continents had to fight themselves. We saw the birth of massive regional tournaments that mirrored ancient tribal warfare. Take the UEFA European Championship, the Copa America, or the AFC Asian Cup. These major tournaments tap into hyper-localized geopolitical rivalries. When England plays Germany, when Argentina plays Brazil, or when South Korea plays Japan, it is not merely about a silver trophy. It is about regional dominance, historical grievances, and profound national pride, settled not on a battlefield, but on 110 meters of grass. And then, humanity decided it was time to build the ultimate planetary altar. In 1930, the first FIFA World Cup Cup was held in Uruguay. For a few weeks, the World Cup can feel more emotionally powerful than politics, diplomacy, or international agreements. Why? Because the World Cup is a secular religion that flawlessly taps into the deepest, most ancient wiring of the human brain, our desperate need for a tribe. For hundreds of thousands of years, our ancestors lived in tight-knit hunter-gatherer bands. If you belonged to a tribe, you survived. Our brains evolved to release massive doses of dopamine and oxytocin when we feel a sense of belongingness. Modern society is deeply isolating. We sit in concrete boxes, entirely disconnected from a physical community. But then you put on your national team's jersey. You step into a stadium, and you are no longer an isolated individual. The stadium crowd is the modern, amplified version of our ancestors gathering around a roaring fire. When 80,000 people chant in unison, a phenomenon known as emotional contagion takes over. Our brainwaves literally synchronize. We mimic the emotional states of those around us. To the human brain, a last-minute equalizer is not a game. It is survival. Which brings us to the ultimate question. If it is just a game, why do we let it break our hearts? We see grown adults fall to their knees, weeping uncontrollably because a stranger missed a penalty kick. To the uninitiated, this emotional devastation seems profoundly absurd. But we live in a society that constantly forces us to repress our emotions. We are conditioned to swallow our grief, moderate our joy, and maintain a polite baseline of emotional numbness. Football provides a designated, socially acceptable safe space for public emotional breakdown. It is pure catharsis. It is the one arena in modern life where we are explicitly granted permission to experience the absolute, unbridled extremes of the human condition. We are allowed to feel blinding rage, gut-wrenching sorrow, and transcendent, explosive joy, all within 90 minutes. The structure of these massive tournaments is a magnificent, cruel metaphor for life. They teach us about perseverance. They remind us of the fragility of hope, and that sometimes you can do everything perfectly and still lose. But most importantly, the game teaches us about resurrection. No matter how devastating the defeat, the whistle will eventually blow again. When we look at football, we are not just looking at athletes kicking a ball. We are looking in a mirror. We see our desperate need for order, our primal urge to belong, and proof that no matter how far we venture into the cosmos, we remain deeply emotional creatures, seeking a moment of magic in the simple, perfect geometry of a round ball.